Hello, I'm Ian Henschke and welcome to State Line, South Australia. For some time now, there have been rumblings of disunity within the state government, and this week they seemed to erupt with full force when two government ministers attacked each other on the floor of the parliament. The government says the rift has now been patched up, but tomorrow it will face more attacks from within at the State Labor Conference. Some union leaders have already indicated they're unhappy with the government and they'll be calling for change. Simon Royal has obtained the audio of the meeting which set off the fireworks.
Free, free, set them free.
The truth, as the old saying goes, will set you free. But in politics, as Agriculture Minister Michael O'Brien has learned, your colleagues may not say thanks if you're the one who sets the truth free, especially when describing the state's budget situation like this.
We're actually having to borrow to pay wages. Now that's unsustainable in the long term, and the principle of an overdraft is the bank expected you at least once a year to get back into the black. Now we're in a position as a government, if we were being financed by the banks, they'd pull the overdraft on us because we are currently year on year operating in the red.
Towards the end of the meeting, the minister said this.
We could be a very, very prosperous state, but the fact of the matter is at this particular point in time, we are the poorest state on mainland Australia. That's the reality.
This is the first time those widely reported comments have been heard in Michael O'Brien's own voice. Along with other comments made at the meeting, it's why Kevin Foley gave his colleague an extraordinary dressing down in Parliament this week.
The world's greatest agriculture minister he may be, but he is not responsible for the sale of Forestry SA. I am as Treasurer. And, Madam Speaker...
Order! The Leader of the Opposition will be quiet.
Well, it was unfortunate that information was released publicly about options government was considering, because that was never intended. Madam Speaker...
Order!
The minister should not have made public information that he did, and that is regrettable. That is regrettable.
Order!
But I don't know why he did.
But unlike some of the Treasurer's other targets, this one bit back.
And this proposition that somehow me going down there and actually taking people into my confidence has created a level of angst that wasn't there prior to me going is a bloody nonsense.
For the Liberals, it was a gift, and according to the ABC's Matthew Abraham and David Bevan, it is significant that Labor gave it.
It's very unusual in the Labor Party. They're normally very disciplined about these things, and they have their spats and serious issues normally behind closed doors.
It's unprecedented for this government?
For this government, and I think that's the significance here. This would not have happened perhaps 6 months ago, certainly wouldn't have happened 12 months ago. Kevin Foley would have shown much greater discipline. Mike Rann would not have tolerated anything like this, but it's happening. And then after the event, Mike Rann is having to pull ministers into his office and say, fellas, sort this out.
The catalyst for this public fracture in Labor's ranks was a foray into the forests.
If you go down in the woods today, you're sure of a big surprise.
Michael O'Brien had gone to the southeast to outline to locals the government's plans to forward sell logs from the state's forests. How that might occur and how a private company might handle the forests is causing huge angst, and that's why the convoy of trucks came to Adelaide on Wednesday.
What we could see here is, it could be a company that needs a quick buck, and they will bring forward their felling of these trees, and we might see a lot being exported directly overseas.
Peter Gandolfi, who was recently elected Mayor of the Wattle Range Council, was at the meeting. The transcript shows it was announced that proceedings would be recorded and transcribed. But did Michael O'Brien, as Kevin Foley charges, cause unnecessary anxiety? Not according to Peter Gandolfi, who says plans to flog forests have been around since 2008.
I think he was very honest to us. To the extent that obviously it was damaging to the government.
But the point is that once that damage would have been contained, not exacerbated by his colleagues. Before he came to Parliament in 2002, his biography says Michael O'Brien was a small business operator and also a national manager for Elders IXL during the time of John Elliott. In the ALP, his standout qualification is that he's a member of the dominant right faction.
Michael O'Brien's always been a bit of an anomaly, actually. I've never quite been able to work out why he is where he is, and it's interesting to watch him this week looking for succour, I suppose, across the benches, the Liberal Party. Here's a man who is a wealthy businessman in his own right. He's a millionaire plus. He chooses to live in Springfield, a long way from a working class seat. He was pre-selected for the right. He doesn't tick a lot of the boxes for the Labor Party. I assumed, therefore, that he was one of those people who's number one with a bullet. In other words, they've pre-selected him because he has future leadership potential. He's seen as somebody who could be a future premier. So after this week, rather than being number one with a bullet, I think he just got the bullet.
At the very start of the meeting, Michael O'Brien said this.
I spent the afternoon in an abattoir at Murray Bridge, so apologies for the smell, but I smell like this most of the time.
Many fear there's now a certain odour pervading the entire government. Tomorrow, Labor faces its state conference. Union SA's leader, Janet Giles, won't get a say because she's not a delegate. But she says there'll be a protest by unions and disaffected Labor members outside. And although it may not come soon, she says time's up for the leadership of Kevin Foley and Mike Rann.
I don't see how we can rebuild what people said they wanted, which was a Labor government at the last election, if those two remain. It's like two bad apples in a barrel. They're ruining it for everyone else. We've got great faith in Labor values and the Labor Party, but we think that those two people need to go in order for us to rebuild the confidence in the community about voting Labor.
And thanks to the ABC's Tim Gerritsen and Tyson Shine in our Mount Gambier office for their help with that story. Now,